Hey there, and welcome to What the Chuck, episode number 1. This channel is about DIY projects around the house, small little renovations, a little bit of automotive, some recreational, just stuff around the house in general. We've all been there. You get to that one little project that you can't figure it out, you're stumped, so you go right to the YouTube, type in what you're doing, and it never fails. There's a collage of videos, 15, 20 videos of something similar to what you're doing, but never exactly. So you start watching video after video after video, and you kind of piece together your project and get it done. It works, gets you by. Hopefully, these videos can help you get through those projects a little quicker. Real-time, comical value. Now, as you're doing these projects, the neighbor knocks on the door or sends a text. Hey, can you come help me with my projects? So here we are, helping the neighbor with his projects. It's always fun. It's a good thing to do. Distracts you from your projects, gets your brain moving in a different direction. He's gonna see this. So today's episode is about koi ponds in the winter time. Let's dive right in. Koi ponds are very simple as far as mechanical. You have a skimmer box that sits at the bottom with the pump in it, and then there's some plumbing that runs all the way up to the top to the spillway or waterfall box, pushes the water through the pipe, spills over, goes through your stream and back into your pond. Other than that, you have a rubber liner that traps the water in, and that would essentially be the basics of a koi pond. Now, I recommend using a quality product. It'll help the longevity of the pond, and parts are a lot easier to get if you do end up needing parts. So stick with a reputable brand, get some good stuff, and it will last you a long time. I'm going on about 7 years now, non-stop, pond runs all the time on the same pump. Good brand. 2 ways we can keep a hole in the ice in the winter time are air bubblers or heaters. Now, the reason for the hole in the ice is for gas exchange. Throughout the fall and into the winter time, all of the fall leaves, if you have trees around the pond, the fish waste and debris breaks down going into the winter time, and it forms a gas. So what that gas can do is produce a toxic situation for the fish, and you can have a major fish kill-off if you don't take care of that. So 2 ways you can do that are air bubblers. I use an air bubbler in the summertime, and then in the wintertime I'll pull the air bubblers from the deep part of the pond up to the shallow part of the pond right by the skimmer, and the agitation from the bubbles keeps a hole open in the ice. And about a 10-inch hole will suffice for the gas exchange. Another way you can do it is with heaters. I use a pond heater. You can use a horse trough heater, but they're very inefficient when it comes to power consumption. So I would stick with a good quality pond heater if you tend to go that route. Pond heaters don't use very much power, and you very rarely need to use them, only when it gets really, really cold outside. So this pond here is about 16 by 16. It's about 5,000 to 6,000 gallons. And in the deep of winter, the ice can maybe get 2 to 4 inches thick, so not thick at all. So if the air bubblers are starting to freeze over, I'll throw the pond heater on top of the ice and it'll melt its way down through. And then I'll leave that running, and it'll ensure about a 10-inch hole in the ice. And then when it warms up, I'll go ahead and remove the pond heater and resort back to the air bubblers. One of the other things you need to keep an eye on is the spillway or waterfall box up at the top. If you choose to leave your stream running throughout the winter time, ice can form up and around that, and the water will go underneath. If you have any bit of a pet walking around there or a kid, sometimes it's done it on its own, but that water can go over the ice and can essentially drain your pond. So you really need to keep an eye on that. Go out and check it every once in a while and make sure that your water level is not dropping at a rapid rate, or you have water running over the ice, because that's a disaster. I've had that happen to me due to a dog. It was a sad day. Not for the dog. The dog didn't get hurt. I didn't do anything to the dog. But it drained about half of my pond. I had to get the hose out. Luckily I stored the hose in the basement, hooked it up to the faucet. The faucet was somewhat frozen, it was a disaster. Ended up using hot water, finally got the hose to go, filled the pond up, and I learned a lesson. Always keep an eye on that ice up around your waterfall box. Save you some grief. Now, if you have koi or fish, people always ask me, what do the fish do in the wintertime? And they go to the bottom of the pond where it's the warmest. So in the fall, the warm water is on top, the cold water is on the bottom. Going into winter, it flops. It's the thermocline. So the warm water goes to the bottom, the cold water goes to the top. So the fish just go right down to the bottom and essentially hibernate. They just sit there. You don't have to feed them. You don't have to do anything to them. But it's tempting when you get ice on the pond to walk on it. Kids, dogs, you. Walking on the ice is not good for the fish. You can traumatize them. So I would, if you can, stay off of the ice. If you have a skimmer box, and you know how to clean it out, throughout the winter time you shouldn't have to touch it at all. Generally the last fall clean out, if you're cleaning your skimmer box out, is enough to carry you through the winter. You might go out and take a listen, see if you can hear the pump sucking air or a clogged up filter. But usually you take care of that right before winter sets in, so you shouldn't have to worry about that. If you have to, you just pop the lid off, dump it out, put it back in, and hopefully you're good to go for the next few months throughout the winter time. As for the water level of the pond, I do not have to top it off, fill it up. The snow and the rain throughout the winter time, if it does rain, tops off the pond, so you never have to get the hose out and fill it up unless you have one of those disasters like I was talking about where the water runs over the ice, drains your pond out, so it leaves you with half of a pond in a big mess. Now, if you do have a koi pond, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Winter and spring are the ugliest times of year, unless you get a real good 4 to 6 inch snowstorm that can be rather beautiful. But just hang in there. Everyone knows they're going to get green. The fish are going to come back. Just got to wait. And mentally prepare for the pond cleanup, which isn't too bad. I'll do a video on that later on when it comes time. But for now, we just got to keep waiting. Still waiting. It's rather dark outside. And snowing and raining. Man, I do not want to do that clean out. That's probably the worst time, is the pond clean out. Pumping it out and flushing it out and smelling the muck and the debris that built up over the winter time and fall. And man. Luckily, it's only about a half-day job. If you do not have a koi pond, now is the time to think about getting one. Highly recommend it. The sound of the running water, the kids playing around it, they're just great. Even if you don't want to do a pond, you could do a pondless. Get that running water sound. We open up our bedroom window in the wintertime just to hear the sound. They're so good. They're just so good. People naturally go to running water or water. The sound of water. It's quite the tangent on water. Highly recommend it. Still waiting. Thank you for joining me on What the Chuck. Stick around. We'll do another fun video, another project. Is that the neighbor?